Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's 14 Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. Thanks, pal. Alright, man, it feels great to be doing a 14th vlog and, diving back into the game and doing these vlogs again. I've barely played any 14 the last few weeks aside from doing the Hildibrand Quests with Summoner Jobin, who did a really great job filling in for me the other week with that guest vlog. That was really fun. I still did the video editing and music, but it was really fun hearing Summoner Jobin do voiceover for the vlog, and I thought he did a great job. Since that vlog, we've had a couple more play sessions going through the Hildibrand Questline. It's been a real blast. We're moving at a pretty slow pace because we ended up being Chatty Cathy's talking about his guest vlog and his first YouTube video, which was his theory on what the next title of the Final Fantasy VII Re-Trilogy was going to be. So we didn't get far in that questline the last couple sessions, but, he's been really enjoying it, I've been really enjoying it, and yeah, it's been really great diving back into the Hildibrand questline. So there wasn't a vlog last week, because last week I released a video essay I had been working on, which was which Final Fantasy should you start with? It was a bit of an experiment because for those who make YouTube videos, you'll know this, but for those who don't, there is a tab in the YouTube studio where you organize your videos and stuff. And there's a tab called Inspiration where AI suggests video ideas, and 99% of them are absolutely terrible, and they're just really, really awful. But there was one that wasn't bad, and that I actually thought I would have something to say on the subject, and I was curious to see how it would do algorithmically, which was, which Final Fantasy should you start with? They said viewers of my content would be very interested in it, and they expected it would be a high-performing video. And I'd seen some other videos on the topic before, then there'd been some really good ones. In particular, Resonant Arcs was really good, Dreamcast Guys was really good, and I actually did a podcast with Dreamcast Guy years ago. Super Butterbuns, that one was pretty good. But I purposely avoided watching any of those again to make sure that my video had a unique voice, and I wanted to offer a unique approach to it. I decided to approach it similar to my 11 essay, where it was meant to be informational for outsiders, because I've had discussions with non-FF fans before, and they've asked me where to start, and I try sending them some trailers for some certain games, but they wouldn't really capture the essence and vibe, so the video was supposed to be the perfect look for those outside the franchise who might want to check it out. But of course the video bombed. It did not do well, despite a lot of work being put into it, and me being pretty happy with the quality of it. It was nice to have a full video essay recorded with an actual good microphone and not my crappy headset mic I did those ranking videos in my 11 video essay with. So I'm happy with the video itself, but the performance, it's really bombing. So I'm not sure if I'm ever going to do another AI suggested video topic again, but I really wanted to try it as an experiment to see, well, maybe YouTube's algorithm knows the algorithm better than me, and no, apparently not. But yeah, it was a lot harder to do a full video essay in between doing the weekly vlogs. Plus, September and October happen to be really busy months for me. September is really busy for me every year, but October is insanely slammed for me this year, so I definitely felt the crunch. But still, I'm glad I was able to get it done, and hope everyone who watched it enjoyed it. I also made a guest appearance on Resonant Arcs podcast the other week discussing Final Fantasy XI music. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw that, but it was a real fun time. Although I made sure I was very conscious of the time in terms of the podcast itself and the other folks on the episode. I know I can be a bit of a chatterbox and didn't want to dominate the conversation, but I also had to balance out correcting mistakes from other guests without coming across as snobby or know-it-all, because people who are like that can be very annoying, and I didn't want to come off as annoying. And so I ended up letting the first incorrect statement in the episode go because I wasn't sure how much I should just let it slide and how much I should correct the record on certain things, because during the pre-show banter I found out I was the only one who picked any music from the game after Chains of Palmaccio. So I was calibrating how best to juggle the convo to make it flow and be pleasant for the audience. Because I remember seeing a lot of negative feedback on a podcast about Expedition 33, where there was one panelist who had issues with the story and the rest didn't, and the comments tore that guy apart. They were brutal to him. And people said, he kept cutting people off and dominated the convo, and he really didn't. He waited for his turn to speak and was pretty polite, and just people kept asking him questions, but still everyone was dogpiling on him. And so I have to remember that even if you're not doing something, you have to remember that people might still have the perception of you doing that thing, and so you have to take extra steps to make sure that you can't be interpreted, or you can't be misinterpreted in a certain way. And so I tried to like balance the lessons I learned from that podcast and other podcasts I've been on over the years, because I've been on so many podcasts over the years when I was like promoting my bands and stuff. And so I was trying to find that right balance, and it looks like the comments on the Resident Arc 11 music episode was really good, so I'll take it. Oh, and if you're wondering why I was wearing the sunglasses, my overhead lights are broken and I had lamp shining in my face the whole time, and it was hurting my eyes, so I put on sunglasses. But it's also rock and roll, so it's fine. And speaking of rock and roll, I do need to at least comment on Ace Frehley's passing, which, this is a 14 vlog, so it's not really supposed to be about, 70s rock legends Kiss, but, Kiss was the band that got me into music and completely altered the course of my life. Being a musician gave me a lot of bold confidence and direction in life. It led me to moving to Nashville, going on all kinds of adventures, meeting my wife. I wouldn't have done any of that if I hadn't seen Kiss and become a Kiss fan. And so if not for Kiss, I would have a completely different life. And Ace Frehley was a core part of that. I listened to a lot of Kiss in high school, and I still listen to them. Not as much as I did back in the day, but they're still in rotation. And, I've just got a lot of history with the band. A few friends of mine ended up joining Ace's solo band. And one of the guys who joined Ace's solo band played guitar on my second album. And there's another buddy of mine who did all the Kiss remasters, including Ace's 1978 solo album. And I would always compliment that buddy of mine on what a good job he did on those remasters. Actually, so I met that buddy of mine. So he was playing drums in the Eric Stewart band, and we had a gig with them. Eric Stewart is kind of best known as a voice actor. He did like Brock and James and Pokemon and Kaiba and Yu-Gi-Oh! But he's got a really good classic rock band where he does originals. And so I ended up doing some gigs with the Eric Stewart band because we're both Nashville bands. And I became friends with the drummer in Eric's band. And when he gave me his card, yeah, we should hang out sometime, man. And when I saw the name on the card, I recognized him as the guy who did all the masters, the Kiss remasters. And so I would laugh and say oh, you know how much my lunch money went to you? And we'd laugh about that for years, and we'd always go over his house for Christmas. He'd always have a big Christmas party, invite us all over. He was the best mastering engineer in the business. Just really, really great. He won 4 Grammys for mastering. Really awesome dude. Sadly, he passed away a few years ago. And so there's an extra layer of bittersweetness and sadness when I listen to the Kiss albums that he remastered, because I'm just I'm remembering the great job that he did mastering those. But yeah, great drummer, great master, Joe Palmaccio, rest in peace, buddy. But yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of memories associated with Kiss and that band. Like I said, I have friends who were in Ace's band. I have friends who worked on Ace Records. And so just a lot of memories associated with Kiss, big part of my life. And so rest in peace, Ace Frehley. And I do recommend, checking out Ace's 1978 solo album. It's a great album and definitely worth your time to listen to. But yeah, so anyway, after finishing the video essay, I ended up getting really sick for a few days and ended up resting in bed. So I didn't really play any 14 for a while because I was so sick. The most I could do was watch K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix, but otherwise I mostly just slept for a few days. Then when I was finally starting to feel better, I got a voice acting gig, which I hadn't had one of those in a while. But my voice was good enough to do a little bit of voice acting, so got that side gig, and that took some time. And, I'm glad I'm feeling better because I'm going to be going out of town next weekend. I'm going to be slam busy this weekend, so I'm glad that I mostly recovered and, was able to do the voice acting gig and get back on my feet. But anyway, like I said, slam busy. The video essay, voice acting gig, going out of town. Busy times over here in the Gredtroin household. But, I was excited. Video essay's done. I can jump back into 14. But then I saw that Another Eden released a lengthy update with a story expansion. And because I always try to keep up to date on those so I don't fall behind, I decided, all right, I'm in between expansions. I just finished the video essay. I'm going to do the Another Eden update before I jump back into 14. And there was a lot to do in Another Eden. I got another character in the gacha pools a few weeks back named Shanie. There are 2 Shanies. There's one from the main timeline and one from the alternate timeline. And what's really fun with Another Eden, because it's sort of it's almost like a twist on Chrono Cross in some ways. It's fun when you meet the parallel timeline versions of the characters and see what their storylines are. And so the main timeline Shanie, she has a curse where basically everybody thinks she's really hot and tries to get with her. And alternate timeline Shanie has a curse where everyone who sees her face hates her. And so they have these polar opposite curses. And so Aldo, the main character of Another Eden, is basically asexual, so he's not affected by either curse. And so the questline with alternate Shanie is helping her break her curse, which is by spending the night in the same room together. which is like cute and very awkward in like a very anime kind of way. And then ends up breaking the curse. And then alternate timeline Shanie meets regular timeline Shanie and decides she wants to confess her love to Aldo. And, it's awkward because Aldo's asexual and just like does not respond to her advances. But it's a very cute, fun little quest line. And so I've been actually wanting Shanie for a while because the main timeline Shanie isn't involved in a bunch of expansion storylines. But I do like alternate timeline Shanie too. But you can grade your characters with like this like daily grind quest you can do. So I'm going to upgrade to get original timeline Shanie, and I won't lose alternate timeline Shanie. I have them both in my party, but that's going to be my next little grind in Another Eden is to get main timeline Shanie. But like I said, I won't lose access to her. Like I can have them both in my party at the same time, so it's pretty fun. But yeah, for those who've been watching the vlogs weekly, if you remember the expansion and Ode to Origin that I did, was that like 2 months back maybe? The next patch of it just dropped in Another Eden. And so that is called Act 2, The Humans, A Just Dream. And so part 1 of that expansion ended with us discovering a girl in suspended animation who looks like Spiri. And Aldo suggests that we visit the future for clues since it looks like future technology. And so we go to the future and we meet with members of the Chrono Clan, which are a group of humans with psychic powers who want to evolve humanity to the next level. And in a previous expansion, they had been enemies of ours, but they've since become allies. And they mentioned that ancient ruins have recently been discovered and incorporated into a resort beach town called Aura Resort. And so we go and visit Aura Resort, and it was pretty fun, like the beach vibes. So in Another Eden, it's like a gacha game with hundreds of characters, and when characters aren't in your active party, they're at different places in the world map. And there are these palette swap robots that aren't very strong that you get in the gacha pools pretty much all the time, and there's no story behind them. Pretty much every character has like a quest line that you can do, and it's like 2 hours for basically each quest line, but there are like these random robot gacha characters that don't have quest lines behind them, and they never appeared in the world map, but they were actually NPCs at the beach resort. It's like, oh, finally, nice to see you after all these years. And so it was pretty fun to see them there. But anyway, the resort is run by a guy named Oswald who works with the Chrono Clan, and Camouflage, a free character who you unlock from playing the main scenario, and member of the Chrono Clan, talks with us about visions of a flood being his motivation for seeking a song called the Gyre Melody, which will allow humans to evolve. So after talking with Camouflage and Oswald, we make our way to the ruins to see if we can find any clues about what's going on with the mysterious girl in the test tube. And Oswald explains that the ruins are now a tourist attraction and kids do treasure hunts inside. So this ancient, ruins of this lost civilization, it's just like a tourist attraction, which, makes sense. That checks out. That's how things are IRL. So but anyway, we get to the test tube body, and it seems like it shows signs of life. So Spiri asks for the tube, and Oswald agrees to give it to her if all of us can help decipher an ancient mural inside the ruins. Oswald says, the Chrono Clan only cares about the Gyre Melody, and they want to help the girl too, so it's a win-win for everybody. And so while exploring the ruins, we find a teddy bear, and the Chrono Clan has the ability to read the history of objects with their telepathic powers, but they're not able to do so in the ruins because of interference. So the teddy bear is taken so the clan members can examine it later. And so we go and investigate the mural that we're supposed to decipher, but we see it's decayed over time and can't be read. So we go back to the past and examine the mural and decide we want to preserve it to keep beast history alive. And so we do a little bit of crafting to protect the mural, like get some stuff to like coat it in the past so that it better is able to withstand the brutal march of time. And this part of the expansion is thankfully a lot less craft heavy, so that is nice. And so we go back to the future and see that the mural is secure, and Oswald explains that the mural shows a girl from a lost civilization that was consumed by a flood. And this mysterious girl sang the Gyre Melody to save her people, and when on the verge of death, her people sealed her away in a watery coffin to honor her courage, and supposedly her spirit still sings the melody. So then we cut to a scene where the Chrono Clan examines the teddy bear, and they witness some kind of atrocity, and they're all just like, humans are gross. And so later that night at the end, Spiri wakes up, and she overhears the Chrono Clan talk about disagreeing with Camouflage's methods. And then a member of the clan sneaks up on her, knocks her out, and talks about how Spiri has two hearts, because obviously Spiri and Chalika are sharing that body. And then we hear like this really creepy sound of like eating, and says, we hear this voice say like, I'm going to eat my fill. And it's really disturbing. And then Spiri/Chalika wakes up and seems to be fine, but then when we go to the ruins, the body in the test tube is missing. And so we investigate around town and we see a wild ego, aka a manifestation of mental power. And after defeating it, we learn about the two factions of the Chrono Clan. There is the God faction that wants to rule over the lesser Paleo-humans because Chrono Clan members call themselves Neo-humans because they've evolved, they've got 6 psychic powers. And the God faction thinks that they should rule over the Paleo-humans because they're just lesser beings, while the Human faction wants to give everyone a chance to evolve and treat everybody as equals. One of our allies, Clughorn, is revealed to be the leader of the God faction and kidnaps Spiri/Chalika to use her to wake up the test tube girl. But unfortunately, we can't get into the ruins because they've blocked off the entrance, so we just blast a hole in the top and land in what seems to be Oswald's secret lab. Then we cut to a scene with the Chrono Clan talking with Clughorn, and it's implied that he's probably a double agent and is actually on our side, even though he's the supposed leader of this God faction. But anyway, while in the ruins, we find an ego that telepathically asks us to help save someone, and we find Oswald tied up. And it's revealed that he was an investor in this lab, but he actually didn't run it, and feels a deep shame because I guess there were terrible experiments done on children in this lab to try to force them to evolve to develop psychic powers, but it apparently did not go well. And so I guess he was funding the lab, but wasn't aware of the atrocities, and just feels this deep sense of guilt for not, better keeping track of where his money was going. But then the party ends up confronting Clughorn, and he demands a test of strength to prove our ideals. And so we kick his ass, and it's revealed that he did this to prove to the God faction that Camouflage and his pacifist ways are right. So, Camouflage is basically like the Professor X, let's all be equals, let's all work together. And the God faction are like Magneto, where it's just no, we should rule over them, we've evolved. And Clughorn was basically being a double agent because he is still loyal to Camouflage, and it's nah, let's all get along, but I will prove that their ideas are better because they can fight better. But other members of the God faction are still wanting to kill Spiri/Chalika to evolve. And so, seeing, all this, disgusting willingness to murder this innocent makes Oswald fully lose faith in humanity and uses the bubbles from the ruins to evolve himself. And decides he wants to turn all humans into egos, those spiritual monster beings that are psychic energy. Turn all humans into egos so he can and rule over them as a god so that there can be, a more just existence. So Camouflage teleports everyone away, and we see the pink-haired member of the Kronos clan again, the one who knocked out Spiri/Chalika in the night, and he seems very sus, and it seems like he has a little companion, little familiar, called Mare, which makes me think that this character is probably going to be a playable character at some point. The pink-haired guy is going to be revealed, he's going to have a character portrait, and that Mare will be a sidekick that can join in parties with you, because that is a mechanic in another Eden. There'll be little monsters who can be an extra party member that sort of act on their own in the battles. And that's the vibe I have, is that that's going to be where that character ends up going. But Camouflage reunites with Aldo and Spiri/Chalika, who is starting to vanish. And we find out that Spiri has been split from Chalika, and without Spiri in Chalika's body, Chalika will end up dying. And so Camouflage offers to connect Spiri's spirit to Chalika to see if they can, once again fuse into a single body to keep Chalika alive. And they have a really good heart-to-heart about how Chalika feels like her life doesn't have much meaning, and that she feels insignificant to, all the people around her because she's surrounded by RPG heroes who are saving the world, and she's just a normal person and drifting through life, not really accomplishing much. And Spiri basically tells Chalika that Chalika's a good person and helps who she can in front of her, and that is enough, and that she can be a hero in her own way. And so then they fuse and wake up. And when we go our way back to the ruins to try to confront Oswald, we see that there's a sealed barrier and we can't get in. Outside the ruins are two members of the Chrono clan, Clughorn, who I mentioned previously, and Mildy, who is another important member of the clan, but I just didn't mention her previously because she didn't come up in the notes until this part. And so they're lost in a dream world hive mind type situation where it's basically a very Xenogearsian kind of thing where the psyches of members of the Chrono clan and Oswald have all blended into this fantasy nightmare dream world full of their memories. And so we hop in to rescue Clughorn and Mildy, and we see Oswald's backstory, and it's just really dark and just him, trying to make the children of the center where the lab he was funding happy and treating them like human beings, and not realizing how bad things were there until like it was too late and they got like all destroyed in like a psychic explosion and all died. And so just like the pain and guilt he feels over that. But we see his backstory, wake up Clughorn and Mildy, and decide, okay, we need to figure out a way to get into the ruins. But we can't get into the ruins because there's that barrier around it. And so what we decide to do is we're going to put someone in one of those watery, like, stasis coffins, and then have them let us in from the inside. So we're going to go back into the past, put someone in one of those watery coffins, and then in 800 years, they will wake up and let us in. But the problem is they will be conscious for 800 years, and they will be alone in darkness for 800 years, surrounded by water and feeling like they're drowning. And so it ends up being decided that Chalika is going to be the one to get into the coffin because she at least has spirit inside her body. And so the two of them can like at least talk to each other, so they're not just like one person trapped in darkness, going alone, going insane. And so they go into the coffin and wait for 800 years and just have to basically just like hope that everything goes okay and they're not just trapped in like a watery dark abyss for 800 years. And there's a sequence where you actually get to see the process of that 800 years trapped in watery darkness, and it's really, really good. Like one of the best RPG sequences I've ever experienced. It is really excellent and is definitely the best part of this expansion by far. Like that was just an amazing RPG scene, like incredible. But 800 years later, they get out of the coffin, they break the device that is keeping up the barrier, and it allows the party to get into the ruins and fight Oswald's ego. And after defeating Oswald's ego, the ghost children, the spirits of the children who died in the facility, thank him for trying his best to make the world a better place and for his kindness. And like Chalika is dealing with like the PTSD of being trapped in darkness for 800 years. And so Mare, that little spirit I mentioned earlier, eats her nightmare to like basically eats away the trauma so that she can like have some semblance of a normal brain after that traumatic experience, but warns that the end of humanity is coming. And then, all right, so I didn't really give a lead up to this part in my notes, but basically the three members of the Chrono Clan that I've mentioned as significant characters, Clughorn, Mildy, and Camelnaz. So they're like psychic super soldiers trying to evolve humanity, but they're also in a band called the Paradoxical Dreamers that are like an arena level band, and they decide to, through the power of music, give the ghost children some peace. And so they put on like a really sick concert to give the ghost children some peace and also unite like everyone on the resort for and give like people faith in humanity through the power of music, because you know what unites everybody? Kick-ass rock. I'm not describing it as well as the game does, but they actually do justify it in like a pretty meaningful and nice way. But like the most reductive way is like, you know, Bill and Ted Power of Rock saves the world, essentially. But then the maiden in the other coffin wakes up, and that is the end of this expansion update. And then after that, a whole bunch of side quests opened up and looked like they were all heavy crafting. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I don't feel like doing all this crafting. I'm ready to get back into Final Fantasy XIV. So this week was really just trying to get back into the swing of things in 14. So I was sort of looking at my to-do list like, okay, I'm not going to have too much time this week with, you know, the stuff going on this weekend and also doing that Another Eden update. So like, you know, what's going to be some stuff that feels good to check off my list this week? So actually the first thing I ended up doing was I watched the cutscenes for the 2021 Moonfire Fair, so I could see the backstory for my polar bear mount because I hadn't seen those. And so I wasn't able to play it at the time because I hadn't started playing 14 yet. But it was nice to see the lore behind the polar bear mount I paid an extra $8 for. So it was fun seeing that little quest line. And I also watched the Dragonsong's Reprise Ultimate on YouTube because I heard, ooh, that is the quest line where Orshafant lives. And, you know, people would say like, oh, you can see the parallel timeline version where Orshafant lives. And honestly, I wasn't super into it because like him living is like a split-second thing where like you see him with the shield and then he blocks the laser and is like, oh, are you okay? I'm glad you're okay. And that's it. So it doesn't feel like I'm getting great resolution for his plot line or anything. So that entire fight scene, which I know it seems like it ties into like the Nidhogg Estinian transformation thing. so maybe it would have been better to watch after doing the Pat's quest, but it, I don't mind spoilers, and I figured like a fight with a Stinian / Nidhogg is coming anyway, so it didn't do much for me. It was alright. But I decided I wanted to do some duties so I can get some poetic, so I can get a new set of gear for the patch quest, because I want to have like a set outfit for the patch quests. And I tried messing with the glamour plate in the in-room, and for some reason it wasn't like taking my outfit. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but like I wasn't able to like attach the outfit I was wearing to a glamour plate. And I have like 90 like glamour prisms, so I have no idea why it's not working. And I just wasn't able to figure it out at all. So maybe I just need to watch a tutorial on like how the glamour plate works. But like if someone can explain to me like what I'm doing wrong and why like none of my stuff is attached, because I even tried with like other outfits, and I tried putting my stuff in like my armoire, but then like it wouldn't let me put some stuff in the armoire. Like I don't understand why it's so complicated. So yeah, I was struggling with the glamour plate. Got myself a bunch of minions at the market board, then logged in with my alt character Gred Troyan, because I was going to be doing the Halloween event with Summoner Jobin, and actually I accidentally spent too much on a minion where I thought I was spending 16,000. I ended up spending like 160,000 on a fat cat minion. And so I was down to like 15,000 gil. So I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta do some dues with Gred Troyan. So I did some dues with Gred Troyan before playing the Halloween event with Summoner Jobin. And, Halloween events in 14 are always great. It was a great time. Loved it. Loved the new mount. And then did the event with Lito. And that is basically all the 14 playing I got in this week. I know it was mostly a vlog about things other than 14, talking about my video essay, Kiss, the Big and Other Eden update. But, I think it's good to get all of that out of my system. Talk about, what's been going on surrounding my 14 playing, and now to lock myself back into 14. So plan, next up in 14, doing some more duty so I can get that full gear set and get Gred Troyan some money, because he is running low. He is running low on that money. But doing that, and then, there was one other thing that I did that I forgot to mention. I did visit Orshaphant's grave. I got recommended to do that, and there was a nice little scene with an NPC there, and I really liked that. So I wasn't into the Dragonsong's Reprise Ultimate, but that little NPC showing up at Orshaphant's grave, that was good. I liked that quite a bit. But yeah, next up for me on my list is the Hildibrand Heavensward questline for Lito. So while I'm doing the Hildibrand questline A Realm Reborn with Summoner Jobin, which I've done previously, I'm going to be doing the Hildibrand questline, the Heavensward one. So that's going to be my next series of quests. So I'm going to be in a Hildibrand vortex, Hildibrand with Summoner Jobin and Hildibrand with Lito. It's going to be so much fun. So thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the comments in the next video. Bye, everyone.